From the Cronkite studios in downtown Phoenix, this is Cronkite News.
President Trump took action, signing an executive order to promote free speech on college campuses. What he says will happen to universities that do not comply.
Plus, forecasters say El Nino fueled Arizona's wet winter this year, and the current conditions could stick around through summer. We'll explain why and what this could mean for you.
Plus, details on an event happening in Scottsdale this weekend, aimed at getting kids off their electronics and outdoors exploring nature.
Cronkite News starts now.
Up first, Special Counsel Robert Mueller has completed his nearly 2-year investigation into whether the Trump campaign conspired with the 2016 Russian election interference effort. He has delivered his final report to Attorney General Bill Barr, who will ultimately decide how much of the report is released to the public. Good evening and welcome to Cronkite News on Arizona PBS. I'm Austin Bundy.
And I'm Sammy Giebers. Thank you for joining us. Universities are supposed to be open to the free flow of ideas, but in our politically polarized times, conservative speakers have been barred from some campuses, while students have raised concerns about what they consider to be hate speech.
Now, President Donald Trump is weighing in on the issue, and not everyone thinks he has the right approach. As Love Junius reports live from our Washington bureau.
The president's solution to the problem of free speech on college campuses is to deny the funding to schools that don't protect the First Amendment. Backed by scores of college students, he said yesterday his administration would do just that. As he signed an executive order yesterday to protect free speech on college campuses, President Donald Trump said it's not a complicated issue.
If a college or university doesn't allow you to speak, we will not give them money. It's very simple.
But former Arizona Governor Janet Napolitano says it's not as simple as Trump thinks, and not something the federal government should be meddling with.
It's unnecessary because we don't need a government order to say there needs to be free speech on college campuses. And it's undesirable because it injects the federal government and its regulatory framework right into the heart of higher education.
Napolitano, now president of the University of California system, agrees that free speech is important, calling it the DNA of universities. But while universities have a responsibility to protect speakers, she says they also protect those targeted by the speech when it is hateful or harassing.
Issues of free speech are important regardless of where you are in the country. They're particularly important for our college campuses like Arizona State, like the U of A, like NAU.
Trump's order is thin on specifics, but he says that if universities do not comply, the government could withhold federal funding. What he says amounts to billions and billions of dollars.
Taxpayer dollars should not subsidize anti-First Amendment institutions, and that's exactly what they are, anti-First Amendment. Universities that want taxpayer dollars should promote free speech, not silence free speech.
Free speech was just the highlight yesterday, but it was just a small amount of the executive order. It was also called on colleges to make it easier for students to figure out the real cost of college and for schools to do a better job reporting success rates of their graduates. In Washington, Love Junius, Cronkite News.
President Trump has made disparaging comments over the past week about the late Arizona Senator John McCain. Now, Senator Martha McSally, who is essentially replacing McCain on Capitol Hill, says she's spoken to the president about the matter. McSally did not reveal Trump's response to their conversation, but told reporters he heard her. She says McCain was an American hero, and she wanted to make sure Trump understood how Arizona feels about McCain. McSally was appointed in December to fill McCain's seat until 2020. Then she'll run in a special election to try to keep the seat.
Forecasters say Arizona's wet winter this year was fueled by a climatological pattern known as El Nino, and it appears the current conditions will last through spring and summer. Cronkite News reporter Jordan Evans explains what this could mean for the state's summer monsoon.
We are just months away from our skies going from this to this in a matter of hours. Arizona's summer monsoon brings the power of Mother Nature to the Valley of the Sun in the way of flash floods, dust storms, and intense heat. And after an extremely wet winter sustained by an ongoing El Nino event, could there be a link to how strong this year's monsoon will be?
El Nino is basically abnormally warm waters in the equatorial Pacific. And what that does is it influences the weather patterns downstream and into the United States, particularly during the winter season.
That usually means more rain and snow for Arizona during the winter. The Climate Prediction Center of the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration released an update last week on the current El Nino, stating that the conditions are likely to continue through spring and summer. The big question now, how could a lingering El Nino affect us in Arizona?
Unfortunately, its predictability is very low during the summer season. So this year is a little different, and we don't have a lot of historical precedent to build our forecast on.
In the last 69 years, there have only been 7 El Nino events that have lasted through the summer. If we compare those events to the wettest monsoons at Phoenix Sky Harbor, only 2 of those years fall in line with a lingering El Nino. Mark O'Malley with the National Weather Service says historically there is not much to prove that a connection exists between El Nino and the summer monsoon. And that's one reason why forecasters have to say this.
It doesn't necessarily lead to a wetter or drier monsoon season. It's just too difficult to say. The one thing that a lingering El Nino may do is decrease the probability of hurricanes in the East Pacific. Now, it only takes one big hurricane to make a difference. So just because there's less of them doesn't make it any less of a threat.
Now remember, just because forecasters cannot give an exact prediction on how intense our upcoming monsoon season will be, it's still important for you to prepare yourself as well as your home for when the weather gets wild here in the Valley of the Sun. Reporting from Tempe, Jordan Evans, Cronkite News.
Right now, Phoenix Sky Harbor has received double the amount of rainfall on average since October 1st. That has drastically reduced drought conditions across Arizona.
Yeah, I feel like it wasn't long ago when we had our umbrellas with us, and now everyone is out with shorts and t-shirts.
I know. This warm weather is perfect. It's the start of spring. It's a sign. But we are going to be seeing some clouds, but no rain in our forecast for the next upcoming week. Currently, right now, we are at 69 degrees, flirting with the 70s right now. Even up in the north, they're seeing 40s and 50-degree weather right now. All of Arizona is feeling that nice warm temperature change. As we continue throughout the rest of the evening, we will be seeing that temperature drop. 10 p.m. expect 64 degrees as our high at the moment. We're not going to be seeing any clouds, but we will be seeing 50-degree temperatures go through the morning of tomorrow. But our high is 78, and throughout the rest of the weekend, even on Monday, 86 degrees. And then Tuesday, we're going to be flirting with 90-degree weather. Usually that doesn't happen until the end of March, according to experts, but it's coming a little early this year. Friday, we will be seeing that sun once again with a high of 80 degrees. Live in the Weather Center, I'm Bain Ferroni, Cronkite News.
Getting kids off electronics and into the outdoors, especially with all this beautiful weather we're having. The McDowell-Sonoran Conservancy is hosting an event this weekend to teach kids how to become junior citizen scientists. Cronkite News reporter Madeline Holler takes us there.
From the one we had last year, 75% of the students that came out had never been to the natural desert. And a lot of people ask, how's that possible? We live in the desert.
The McDowell-Sonoran Conservancy hosts the Junior Citizen Science Festival with the hope that students will be exposed to the desert and learn from it. The first 2 days of the festival showcase a space outside of the asphalt jungles.
Our children are our future. If we don't teach them about the importance of the environment, natural resources, and caring for what we have, then there's no way to ensure that that'll be a priority in how they're thinking moving forward.
The event includes a number of booths that teach students about live reptiles, cacti, and microclimates. America Morales, an elementary school student, has never been to the park. She wasn't 100% sure about what the day would entail.
Probably gonna hike around and see all the animals that are around.
Teachers like Rebecca Glenn see the value of teaching science through nature, which is something she is particularly passionate about.
Oh gosh, I mean, science is everything. It explains how we live, why we live, and kids are such natural scientists. They're curious about everything. And if we can kind of harness that, it allows them to understand everything in education.
And with so much attention being taken away from science in school, opportunities like this to be able to bring out children and teach them about science at such an early age is an opportunity to get them intrigued and want to learn more.
The McDowell Sonoran Conservancy volunteers continue this education outside of the festival. They go into classrooms to review and reintroduce ideas learned at the event. In Scottsdale, Madeline Holler, Cronkite News.
The Junior Citizen Science Festival will be open to the public tomorrow at the McDowell Sonoran Preserve, and admission is free.
Up next, a look at some of the top Cronkite news stories this week.
We'll show you how one local church is dealing with an influx of migrants and how another group is raising awareness by putting people in migrant shoes.
But first, here's what's coming up on Arizona Horizon and PBS NewsHour.
On the next Arizona Horizon, it's the Journalists Roundtable. Prescott lawmaker David Stringer wants records documenting previous crimes kept secret, and the legislature looks at putting more restrictions on voter registration.
I'm Judy Woodruff. On the next NewsHour, country music legend Reba McEntire on tapping into her musical roots. That's Friday on the PBS NewsHour.
Immigration officials continue to drop off migrants at a Phoenix Greyhound bus station and churches across the valley.
Cronkite News reporter Walter Panate visited a church in Tolleson where they want to continue to help, but it isn't easy.
These migrants spend about a day or two in the church while arrangements are made for them. With the increase of families being dropped off, the amount of supplies that people are donating just isn't enough.
It's a crisis. It's a crisis. We need help. I mean, we do this with all of our heart.
It's been a labor of love and faith for Pastor Raul Salgado as Revolution Church in Tolleson continues to open its doors to the steady stream of migrant families dropped off by immigration and custom enforcement officials. But the desire to help has come at a cost.
It looks like it's just getting bigger and bigger. The numbers, when we started back in November, December, we started off with 50 a day. Now we're up to like 100 a day, so they've just been going up higher and higher.
These migrant families are being dropped off by ICE after they've petitioned for asylum and been processed. ICE has been releasing waves of them since late last year, arguing they simply do not have enough facilities to house them. One of them, Ismael Dominguez, crossed into the U.S. coming from Guatemala.
In Mexico, immigration stopped us, and they took our money. We put all our money together to be able to give to them, and they let us pass.
That's where organizations like Revolution Church step in. But the constant influx of family is stretching many of these aid groups thin.
We have to provide 3 meals. Sometimes we provide 2. People are hungry. They're hungry. They want to eat everything that you put there on the table, especially children.
Salgado says churches are struggling financially. With more families arriving, the church's monthly expenses have doubled. Other churches, he points out, haven't had any other choice but to stop helping the migrants.
When churches can't host families, ICE drops them off at this Greyhound bus station near Phoenix Sky Harbor Airport. The concern is that these people won't know what to do when they get left here.
They have to sleep there. They have to call the police. And these people, they don't know nothing about it. It's another system, another government system. It's another country, another language.
My goal is to work and maintain an establishment for my family.
In any way, shape, or form that we could receive some help, you know, that would be awesome. And we could continue to not only help the people we're hosting, but help out the government, you could say that way, because it's the government who's bringing them out to us, to the churches.
Both pastors are now receiving migrant families multiple times a week. They say they hope state officials will soon step in to help with what they call a crisis. In the Broadcast Center, Walter Panate, Cronkite News.
And refugee advocates say not enough is being done to save those fleeing their countries.
Several organizations recently came together hoping to bring awareness to the issue by having participants walk a mile in a refugee's shoes. Cronkite News reporter Marcela Bayeto went to southern Arizona for the event.
Separated our family. That was, I had a reaction. I was starting to feel kind of anxious.
That's how Mary Butler felt after her 5 boys were separated from her during this mock exercise in Tucson. It was a part of the Walk a Mile in a Refugee's Shoe simulation taking place on U of A's campus. The experience taking participants through a 7-stage simulation process to hopefully better understand the journey refugees go through during their resettlement process.
The Where Are the Refugees campaign, we're really trying to continue to put pressure on our legislators and bring awareness to the community that we welcome refugees.
Stations included things like shelter, border crossing, education, and medical.
Unfortunately, we're running really low on medication.
All attempting to shed light on what refugees really go through.
Another one of the stations is this water simulation where participants can understand what it's like for refugees to collect their water at these refugee camps. Now, I wanted to try it out for myself.
Participants walking along the entire perimeter of the event had to carry jugs of water, resembling the trek many refugees do daily.
The average American goes through 100 gallons of water per day per person. Each refugee is only allotted 5 gallons per day.
Former refugees like Jean Paul and his family agree the simulation was a good way of getting others to understand what they went through when they fled the Congo back in 1996.
People who are in camp, they are suffering. All of them, they seek to come here.
According to Sumik, a former refugee from Bosnia, one of the goals for Walk a Mile in a Refugee's Shoes is to bring awareness to the declining number of refugees allowed into the U.S. because of President Trump's admission cap.
We are 6 months into that federal fiscal year. However, we're not reaching even half of the 30,000 allotted refugees.
As for Arizona, Sumik says the state has resettled over 80,000 refugees in the past few decades, but now they'd be lucky if even just 1,000 are able to be allowed in. For refugee families like Jean Paul's, coming to the U.S. is what opened the door to a better future.
This event, it is good. We are remembering how we were in refugee camps.
In Tucson, Marcela Baedo, Cronkite News.
Many cities in the U.S. have created plans to reduce greenhouse gas emissions and more to address climate change. Phoenix is among them.
As Cronkite News reporter Jennifer Alvarez reports, more Arizona cities are jumping on board instead of waiting for federal intervention.
Phoenix has had a climate action plan for years. The city is working toward clean energy in buildings, zero waste, clean transportation, and more.
Currently today, we're degrading our systems, our rivers, our streams, our oceans, our air, often using air just like a landfill. And so you see the brown cloud around Phoenix, like we need to do things about that.
One of those things is to reduce greenhouse gas emissions in Phoenix by 30% by 2025. Tempe is just starting its climate action plan.
We want to leave Tempe better than we found it.
It's a movement seen across the globe. Cities are tackling climate change on their own rather than wait for federal or state government. More than 9,000 cities have joined the Global Covenant of Mayors for Climate and Energy to commit to climate action initiatives. Mark Hartman, the Chief Sustainability Officer for Phoenix, says climate action isn't something cities should hide from.
The message often with climate is like, oh, this is horrible, just duck and cover. No, actually, this is like, imagine if we can actually go and use innovation and be reducing waste by 80% and 90%. Like, wouldn't that be awesome?
Hartman says climate action plans can help cities spend less in the future and taxpayers reap savings.
Here we are, we're buying renewable energy, and it's actually costing us less.
Braden Kay, Tempe's sustainability director, says cities should also think about communities that could be affected by climate change.
How do we make sure that low-income communities and communities on the margin have resources to invest in energy efficiency?
State climatologist Nancy Sullivan agrees.
So it's really hot in the daytime. So a lot of people can just go in the air conditioning, no big deal. A lot of people can't. A lot of the people who are in a fixed income or have a low income, some of them don't have working air conditioning at all.
Tempe's climate action plan will focus on sustainable energy, transportation, and extreme heat. And Kay says these initiatives are ultimately about helping everyone.
If we don't help raise all boats, then our climate actions that we're taking won't really matter.
Cities aren't the only ones paying close attention to climate change. Last week, signs pleading for reform and young faces flooded rallies across the world.
Step up and do something about climate change,
or get the heck out of the way.
Arizona youth say lawmakers should do something about climate change, and they should do it now.
This is a national emergency, and we cannot let them forget it.
Aditi Narayanan, one of the organizers for the youth climate strike in Arizona, says people need to know the effects of climate change.
People think climate change is just a glacier melting up in the North Pole, but I want to illustrate that it's affecting them, that extreme heat patterns, that drought that directly affects them in their livelihoods and their health.
And students say it's up to them to stand up to climate change when no one else will.
As the youth, we are the people that are going to be affected by this, and so it is important for us to take a stand when the adults refuse to come to the table and fight for us.
Say they're pushing for the Green New Deal, which aims to move to 100% clean energy, create sustainable jobs, and support sustainable businesses. Live in the Broadcast Center, Jennifer Alvarez, Cronkite News.
For the very first time, the Maricopa County point-in-time count included not only homeless individuals, but their pets as well.
Sammy Gieber spoke to the Maricopa County Association of Governments as to why they made the change.
I'm sure they'll like it. You are welcome. Take care. Good to see you.
Cheryl King Wade makes it her full-time responsibility in her retirement to help homeless individuals and their pets.
Now we are going down to the CAS area, Central Arizona Shelter Services. We just see a little dog named Sammy who hasn't been feeling well.
Oh boy. Me and Sammy, we owe her our life. I had him since he was just a football. He was that big. He saved my life. Me and him been homeless. We've been all the way around with each other. We can't do it without each other.
Wade met Dina Figueroa when she needed help with her dog. Figueroa couldn't get into a shelter without the proper vaccinations for Sammy, so Wade stepped in.
Sammy went ahead to get his shots and would still be homeless. So I really did appreciate everything you're doing for us.
You are very welcome.
And Figueroa is not the only one who has issues finding shelter with a pet.
Most homeless shelters do not allow pets. So it's really a challenge for people who are trying to seek shelter and, their pets aren't welcome.
Vanessa Cornwall and the pet rescue she works for, Lost Our Home, helps people by taking their pet for a while or offering up food and other supplies. And especially in Arizona, having a pet with you on the street can be tough.
That's a big challenge because obviously, if it's too hot for people to be outside, it's definitely too hot for your pets.
She wanted to find out more about what these owners needed, so she participated in the first Maricopa County point-in-time homeless count that surveyed pets as well as their owners.
Come here.
That's when she found Rhodey.
And just how malnutritioned he looks. And, that was really a result of the valley fever.
Rhodey is doing a whole lot better, but before, his owner was struggling to get the resources she needed to take care of him.
I give the food from my plate to my dog before I eat. There's nights I will go hungry just to make sure my dogs eat.
And that struggle, well, that's why Maricopa County point-in-time homeless count added survey questions this year.
We've learned that there could be potential challenges to folks obtaining housing and or supportive services. And we've heard about the increasing number of pets on the street experiencing homelessness with their humans. So we wanted to start asking that question.
Everyone deserves someone, and for a lot of people, that someone is their dog.
Wade will take dogs to the vet, get them fixed, and provide as many resources as she can from the back of her van.
You're the best.
Thank you. Y'all, I'm an ugly crier. We've been over this.
But she can't get to everyone, and the new change to the survey hopes to shed some light on the issues that these pet owners face.
You want this?
In Phoenix, Sammy Giebers, Cronkite News.
Preliminary numbers from the survey showed more than 100 pets were homeless with their owners.
Shantae Smith says the survey isn't meant as a population estimate, but more of a snapshot of the resources needed for these individuals.
Cars aren't the only thing going fast at ISM Raceway. Reporter Ashley Mackey was in Avondale getting more on the man who calls himself the Speed Painter.
In NASCAR, car speeds can exceed 200 miles per hour. Here at ISM Raceway, an entire painting can be completed in 40 minutes. He calls himself the Speed Painter. Bill Patterson has been painting since he was 4 years old, but today he paints the winning cars at the track, and he does it fast.
I love painting in front of people. I love being here in this environment with the top quality racers and sponsors and the commitment, the engineers. I love being part of it.
Once the race finishes, Patterson has about 40 minutes to create an entire masterpiece of the winning driver's car. Then, after celebrating, signing autographs, and taking photos, the driver walks over to a finished work of art and signs it. And that's just what winner of the Ticket Guardian 500, Kyle Busch, did.
It's pretty cool how fast he can do that up and get it done, and the amount of detail and flow that it has, and the neatness that it looks too.
Busch says this is a tradition unique to the ISM Raceway.
There's not another track that does that. You've got the grandfather clock at Martinsville, you've got the guitars in Nashville, and other racetracks that have other things. It's certainly pretty cool and stays right here in Phoenix.
Well, he commemorates the moment, and you know, when we're running races that we have here, those finishes are what everybody remembers. People have learned to look for Bill, see what he does, and again, his work is just unbelievable.
Patterson has been the resident artist here at this track for over 15 years now. Now fans come out to see him as much as they come out here to see the race.
Bob Ross painted Happy Clouds. This man paints NASCAR, which makes everybody happy.
And that's what it's about for Patterson as well, making people feel an emotion.
The perfect compliment is when somebody says, "Oh my God, I can hear that thing coming at me." That's what I know I've hit my mark.
All of Patterson's winning car paintings hang in the racetrack's headquarters office. In Avondale, Ashley Mackey, Cronkite News.
Thanks for joining us tonight.
For top stories anytime, visit CronkiteNewsAZPBS.org.
Good show. What a good weekend.
Yeah, that was good fun.